Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to Virtue's Last Reward. So, it's been a while since I last played. I've slept since last recording. That's pretty much it. I hasn't been several days like some of the other breaks I've taken, and I've thought about Kay's ending because we saw Kay basically had the same face as Sigma did. And we furthermore saw that Sigma's end showed that he had cybernetic arms. So, particularly if I think back to the story that is revealed about Kay, how he was raised by this like scientist father, and then an assistant woman came in and helped him, helped the assistant father, and they encouraged Kay to then replace the scientist father in his project. What I'm thinking might be the case here, it would make some sense, is Radical 6 happened. The original Sigma was not in every timeline kidnapped when he was 22 and in college. Instead, he went on to become a scientist to try and find a cure for the pandemic, and his solution, I think, in part, is what makes it a situation where he's going to try and change the past, change reality. So, the Sigma we're playing as, I believe, is not the original Sigma. I think Kay's father very possibly was the original Sigma. I think the old lady might very well be the original Phi also, or Phi's mother, an actual biological mother instead of a clone. I think this has potentially been going on for at least 100 years, and there is this hope here that you can potentially go back and undo it, and that's about the only way, and that's not even really explaining it well, but that's about the only way I could figure that you would have Kay here, who has the same face as Sigma. Sigma also clearly had cybernetic arms because he was in some previous AB game, Nonary Game, that that did rip off his arms and they just replaced them. Otherwise, it really wouldn't make sense for him to have cybernetic arms, and that hasn't been explained. That inherently makes it feel like Dio at some point must have been knocked out, and he didn't just directly make his way into the Nonary Game, because it would have been 100 years ago, unless it's a case that Dio actually is from like 100 years in the future, and then that pretty much only leaves maybe Clover and Alice as actually being the original Clover and Alice, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were actually clones too. I wouldn't be surprised if all these characters are either clones or they are from a completely different timeline. We're in this escape room, which is the director's office, which is the first time we've been able to do the director's office. So that's nice. We know there's a password here we want to get eventually, and maybe we will get it here. There's a lot of sound effects here. There's a balloon. You want it, Quark? I don't need a balloon. I'm not a kid. Really? How old are you? I'm 20. What? No way. Gotcha. Ha ha ha. So we have a globe, which looks like an accurate globe. This is kind of one of the great problems with buying pre-made 3D models, where almost certainly this was a pre-made 3D model that maybe they made bluer. If this was thousands of years in the future, the Earth would not look like the Earth. It being blue might be an indicator of something like that. Hey, a globe. Doesn't it look kind of weird? I think somebody glued a piece of paper to it. Let's see if we can get it off then. I found the world map. View it from the file. So let's see what that is. We are still looking for a like third ring password. If we're going to get a third ring password and a, I believe, number 1 bomb password. And we've really locked into that. Okay, so there's like a whole color pattern here, and this whole color pattern does not look too different from the decompression color pattern, which at a certain level maybe these color patterns mean what door you're supposed to go through in what order to get the perfect ending, but I don't think they even need to really hint at that in this game because it really wouldn't matter. There's a screen with it built into the credenza. Is that what a credenza is? There's something on it. Starting up. Please wait. What is starting? Beats me. Well, my money says that it means if we don't do squat, we won't do squat right now. How about you look at something else? Alright, so we've got some brandy. Let's see. Fairy Parents 200-year-old reserve. You can tell just by the look of it. I can smell it. That's some nose you've got there. Here, just let me have a taste. I don't think so. How you can be so cruel. So we have this expensive brandy labeled HO at the top. It's believable that the expensive brandy might do something different, huh? While putting the expensive brandy on the coaster didn't seem to do anything. Laser beam just went right through it. Hey, what the hell think you're doing? If you keep frying it with the laser, you're gonna ruin the brandy. Pull it out of there right now. I didn't realize that's what we were even trying to stop. Let's look at what this device is. What is this? One of those training machines you see on late night infomercials? I think it's a facial recognition device. What? You put your hands on either side and hold your face in front of the lens. Then it checks your face against whatever it's got in its database. Oh, huh. How do you know that? I'm in the salvage business. Every so often, one of these babies shows up. So it really does go to show that Timoji probably is from the future. That he calls himself a junk man, and then he salvages like high technology. It doesn't look like it's turned on. Yeah, nothing's happening when I put my face in front of it. There's something to the right of the lens over that that looks awful like a keyhole. If I had a key for it, you think maybe we could turn it on? I assume so. Alright, well, what's this? I checked it out earlier, but I think it's just a business card holder. A business card holder? Yeah. It's a file where you put business cards. They've all got these weird shapes on the back. I think maybe if you line them up in a particular way, then you're going to get some sort of hint. Place some business cards in the correct order. Well, I guess I can give it a shot. Well, it doesn't seem like any of these names are right. As far as any indication, so let's see. Are we supposed to just categorize all this? This is oddly the exact same design of every business card, and alphabetical is about the thing I could think of. And when you have something like this, it moves all around. So let's see if we're starting to make any progress by going alphabetical. No. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T. So that would be alphabetical. And that doesn't inherently line up anything. And I could probably do something along that line to get that. I could probably try to do a lot more of that, but I don't think I have the answer. I don't get it. Maybe you don't have enough information. Yeah, it's not opening. It's locked. Yeah, looks like it. And see anything that looks like a keyhole though. There is a diamond-shaped hole in the middle though. Do you think we're supposed to stick something in there? I was a little bit more interested in what was on the side here. Well, what do we have here? Haven't seen a computer that old in a while. There's something on the screen. Is that a lion eating a hamburger? I really don't think so. I think it's the lion's got 2 heads. Looks like a monster from Greek myth or something. Looks like it's asking for an ID and a password underneath the line, huh? The keyboard doesn't seem to be working though. Guess we can't enter anything then. So, while this is where we put in the code, later, in the escape room version of this, it's not what's going to happen. And the safe is really big. It's got to be like $100 billion in there. You're such a kid. Maybe they're just hiding something they really don't want people to see. Like some videos. I'm not sure I like the way you said that. Let's just open it up and find out. Ugh, I don't think so. See? Is it locked? Yeah. There's a circular panel on top of the handle. It looks like one of those pressure exchange chamber doors. So if we just do the same thing we did there. Did we go through the pressure exchange door in this path? Yes, we did. When you select the yellow ring guide, the other rings will appear. Blah, 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 blah. See if we can do this. I think we might be able to. So we want white to light blue, red to green, and yellow to cyan. So yellow to cyan is going to be the one that's going to be a pain. So, let's see. Red to green's also going to be a pain. Okay, we go here, and then maybe then we can go this way. This is almost certainly wrong. Right, so I've got yellow to cyan, and clearly all the way around white to light blue. It's gonna be the one that's the problem now. How can we get this white to this light blue and still accomplish what we need to do? Kind of means this has to go this way, which kind of means this has to go this way. Alright. So I think the trick here is to just go all the way through, and in the puzzle before there just wasn't a case of there was a color in the middle, so you couldn't have done this. Good job. You did it. Nice work. Very impressive. I'm not sure where this ending is really going to go on this story. It seems like it's going pretty far, and we may get Tenmyoji and Quark's ending in this case, instead of having one of these be Tenmyoji and Quark, which that would leave this open to be Luna's ending, and that would leave an opening here potentially to for one of these to be Spy's ending. $100 billion videos. Yeah. You can see basically nothing in it. Just a deer head like in the rec room. I believe there was one in the rec room. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a decent amount of stuff in here that could have been in other locations. Sorry guys, it looks like all we've got is a binder and a deer. So a bind deer? What the hell is that? Is Zero just making fun of us? That deer is looking at me, Grandpa. Buck up, it's just a fake. Mounted deer, poor deer. Take a closer look, I think it's just a replica. You mean it's fake? Yeah, woo. That's good to know. You know, there's some red paint on its neck. It's also got 2 pegs on the back of its board. Maybe we're supposed to put something there. Yeah, you can barely even see the pegs unless you're looking side on, looking directly on. They didn't even put a different color or texture on them. Let's see what the binder says. It's got 2 pieces of paper in there. So now we have business card pages 1, business card pages 2. So we've got a whole puzzle there we're gonna have to deal with. Before I started recording the audio on this game, there's some paint inside. Some of the sound effects playing in the background of this were a little bit more disturbing and just a little bit unique in general. The whole ding ding and music, huh? This is cheap, Randy. Alcohol this bad shouldn't exist. So I think it's best I dispose of it safely with my... I'll be taking that, grumble grumble. So he says, this is cheap, Randy, and like, Zero Senior must be a real tightwad if he's stocking this cheap stuff. Might as well be water. Is it really that bad? Well, I admit, I can't be sure. It's hard to really judge brandy until you taste it, so... No, so he's just like desperately trying to... he's like desperately trying to get a drink here. I have a tablet that's missing 1 battery instead of 2. It's strange that there would be multiple kinds of tablets with multiple kinds of batteries you can have. It's not incredibly insane. We have Historical Adventure Saga. 3 volumes. Here we have Literary Analysis. I think we'd starve to death before we go through all 4 of these tomes. Then we have Philosophy. I think these are philosophy books. This stuff is pretty sophisticated. I'm amused you could get that far. I flipped to the first one and my brain just said screw this, I'm out. So you have like philosophy, literature, and historical adventure, which are all, in my opinion, I would guess, parts of what this whole story is about. And I don't think it really matters to click on this before we put the deer on this. It's probably an electric outlet. What is it then? I think you're supposed to insert something into it. Like what? Maybe the deer. Yeah, that's it. Remember how the 2 pegs on the back of the mount? I bet they fit perfectly. Give it a try. Well, you're right. So, we have something here that I feel like I'm gonna have to... Like, none of these books seem to really do anything, so unless there's some way to reveal text on these books, I feel like I'm gonna have to block something to spell something here. What's this? Is that one of those vacuuming robots you see on TV? You got me, it looks like some machine of some sort. Well, is it turned on? I don't think so. Let's see if... Nope, no luck. Nothing. Might as well give up. Yeah, let's look at something else. We can always come back later, right? So, it might be a machine that moves this. this guy around. Here we have a short spear. So he's got a spear instead of a sword. It's just really a short spear though. If you look at the tip of on it, it kind of looks like a diamond. A diamond, huh? Let's see the armor. It's missing a helmet. Not sure, okay. And we got dialogue here I don't even want to read out loud because it's just like it's just getting so boring. Even though I've had a break, it's like, yeah, I don't want to read all this stuff as I'm trying to actually play a game and escape. So either this would be the point where voice acting I think would suit it better, where the characters would just comment on what you're doing while the game did not take control away from you, and they would just be voiced and you could listen to them, or you could just play it, and that at any point their commentary would just get cut off as soon as you escape the room. I mean, it would be not that hard to have Sigma voice a few lines that say the equivalent of, hey guys, I've solved it, let's get out of here. Like every single time let's go and pop the balloon. There's a balloon in the middle of the room. Nope, it's not gonna let me pop it. Interesting. So we use the spear to open this. And then we've got a key. There's something in here. Is there a key? Pretty small key. This tip is circular. See anything that might fit into? Yes, I have. I'll put the key in here. Turn on the machine. Well, the light turned on. You managed to turn it on? So let's see. Well, why don't you give it a face to look at? One of ours? Yeah. Damn, none of our faces work. Face not recognized. Gender mismatch. What does it mean by gender mismatch? Maybe it's saying that it needs a girl. But there's only 3 of us and none of us are women. Well, maybe if we dress Quark up like a girl. No, no way. Why don't you dress up then? No, just thinking about that makes me want to puke. Besides, do you see a wig or makeup or anything around here? How would any of us dress up like a woman anyways? Dude, you totally want to do it. No, I don't. ... Awkward pauses. Hey, wait a minute, maybe. What is it? Did you have an idea? Well, it can't hurt to try. Yeah, definitely worth a shot. Does he pull out that poster? How long has he had this in his pocket? Looks like a piece of paper. No, it's a picture. Yeah, I remember him looking at that in the infirmary. I guess it's worth a shot. So he just put a picture of some woman, and maybe we'll figure it out. And that room spun, but there clearly was some other stuff in that room. Whoa. Oh my gosh. It's like we're in a villain's secret lair. Huh? Didn't think that would happen. Guess the recognition worked. Yeah. And see if that's the picture. So, who is this girl? Hey, stop. She's just a girl. No, she's not. Anyone who's played the game, the previous game in this series, 999, knows that that is Akane, or known as June, throughout the second Nonary game, and that ties Tenmoji directly into the first game, which means Tenmoji is Junpei from the first game. Would be my guess. Either that, or he's somehow the grandfather of June and Santa. He might be Santa, too. She's just a girl. Is she a granddaughter? No. Well, who is she then? Erg. Damn it, fine. You already seen her after all. Her name is Akane Kurashiki. I've been looking for her for a long time. Why? Because she's his first love. No. You've got it wrong. But you carry that picture everywhere. I don't think I've ever seen you leave it somewhere. And when you don't think anybody's watching, you talk to it. I've seen you do it. Erg. Huh. Didn't mark you for a hopeless romantic, Tenmyoji. Look, it's not about love. I'm not a goddamn romantic. Okay, okay. You don't want to talk about her. I get it. And great point to also point out here. This is a flat, once again, drawn 2D image. It's not even particularly a greatly drawn 2D image. But it certainly stands out now that you see this image and flat 2D images of characters in a game where they've decided to go with 3D models instead. And I would say even this drawing is not particularly well drawn. It is also worth mentioning, if you haven't played the first game, that Akane here, this is a picture of her much younger than she shows up in the Nonary games. But it is kind of a weird story nonetheless, that basically June and Junpei's romance, a lot of that centers around a elementary school moving into middle school romance, so they are very, very young. Alright. I don't think there's anything else to get from that other than, yeah, that is a big reveal, so I could see why this would have been locked. Although, it's still not a huge reveal. Look. Oh, there's a helmet for a suit of armor. Okay. We also have over here, I think, any number of books we could put here. This is a coaster, right? It looks like just the one on the bookshelf. I mean, if I put the cheap brandy here, will it block it? Look, the laser beam is bending all inside the bottle. Yeah, it made a parallelogram. Is this booting up still? We, as far as items, still don't really have a lot to do, so we can do two things. We can sit here. You must be pretty tired, Tenmoji. All this excitement can't be easy for someone your age. Why don't you sit down for a bit? I'm not so old that I need the likes of you to worry about me. That's so? Well, I think I'll just have a seat then. And let's see if we can pull this trigger. There's a lever next to the chair. Why don't you pull it? What's gonna happen? Come on. Is it really that hard to figure out? I think you can go back into the wall. Pull the damn thing and find out. Alright, let's give it a try. Here I go. And so we can see there's like a bullseye on the balloon. Looks like there's something on the table. Is that a battery? Good, so we can now combine that. So we've got that. There's a letter P in red paint on the wall. In this case, you cannot rotate left or right. And you can look down and say that you literally aren't even being rendered. So we have a P and HE and then L. Obviously, that suits him. What's in his hand? A slingshot. Okay. We got a slingshot. Now, let's go over here. Let's see, we've got 3 books, 4 books, and 3 books. So if I put a 3 book in this area, and then we put 4 books in that area, and then we put 3 books in this area, that looks like an H. So H-E-L-P. It's great to know. Sit down in the chair. See if we can hit the bullseye. Like a bullseye? Yeah, you're supposed to shoot it. Shoot it with what? Don't be an idiot. You've already got what you need. Okay, I'm just gonna use a slingshot. Oh, hold there. Do you actually have something to fire? Oh, no, I guess I don't. What are you gonna shoot it with then? Well, with mind bullets. It's called telekinesis, Sigma. Anyway, I figured that'd slip your mind, like everything else is. Here, I grabbed these off the floor earlier. Take it. So this is the key we used to start the facial recognition device. Thanks, man. And I guess we don't have any special psychic powers after all. Here goes. Aiming. 3, 2. So they didn't even plan for it to have a bullet. It would have just been easier for there to have been a slingshot BB or something with the slingshot instead of using the key. Or it would have been easier just to keep the key. 3, 2, 1, fire. That time he doesn't say 0. What a nice aim. You got it right in the center. Alright. And then my question is there anything to actually pick up after blowing up the balloon? I think the answer is probably no. Alright, let's go ahead and play with this now. Bob, Chris, John, Tony, Ian, Michael. So, Bob, Chris, John, Tony. See if we got that anywhere close. Bob, Chris, John, Tony, Ian, Michael. Tony, Ian, Michael, Tony. Michael's in the middle. Okay. So that gives us a bit of a start. Now we need to start using the rules to fill in the rest of these. There was a game, a very old like DOS-based game called Sherlock that I think is better known as like the Einstein riddle or something like that, and I think that's basically all this is. Carol likes to be on the left. Anne prefers to be near Bob. Ellen would like to be above Anne. Sophie likes to be on the very right. Kate likes to be next to Michael. And let's go ahead and put that. And that's as far as I got. Carol likes to be on the left. Let's start with that. Carol likes to be on the left, so she's either here or here. We'll start, I guess, with this. Anne prefers to be near Bob. Anne is near Bob. Okay. Which Anne could be in two places. Ellen would like to be above Anne. So let's do that. And do that. And then do that. Sophie likes to be on the very right. She is on the very right. Kate likes to be next to Michael. That. Do we see anything about Ellen having to be... Let's see. Anne prefers to be near Bob. See. We have a couple things that seem off here. For sure. So he's 200 K and a rough 200 symbol. And then something 3. Alright, well. Didn't mean to go back. Oh, shoot. Let's see. Do that. Do that. Do that. That. And that. And then. See how much of that we got right. Bob, Chris, John, Ian. Tony, Ian, Michael. Carol likes to be on the left. Sophie likes to be on the right. We had Lola here. That pretty much puts us where we were. So, what I'm thinking is Kate and John shouldn't mix. So, let's try Kate and Anne. And see how that works. No. I think that works any better. I don't understand why that didn't work though. Michael and Anne. Yeah, okay, I see what's going on here. It's Kate and John probably need to be mixed. That'd be 300k at that point. And then that's 300. And then 384 or 3B4. Okay, but seemingly these aren't in the right places. So what could we do now to make sure that these numbers do line up, but they are in the right order for Chris and John and Ian to all be in the right place? Let's see. Because this wants to be here. When we do that, that messes that up, which then probably means that this is in the wrong place. Yeah, I think I've got it now. So if we do that, now I have 800k. We gotta put Michael back and just stupidly brute force it without even really knowing that's what I had done. I think this is right. Let's look on the other side. Maybe the shapes look like something now. Okay, let's look at the back of the cards. So I say I unlocked it at 800k 334. It says book 334. Okay, not 800, the letter B. Alright. What does it mean? Well, a book is a bunch of tissues, a bunch of pieces of paper that are bound together with. I know what a book is. Okay. So. Wait. I don't think you need the books around anymore. Remember, the back of the business card said book 334. So if that means to arrange the books in the order of 334. Oh, yeah, I guess I already did that. So the entirety of solving that puzzle literally had was just to solve a puzzle I'd already figured out by myself. So what are we left with? Tablet. Looks like you got the tablet turned on. Look, something showed up on the screen. Enter a 4-digit password to then press the enter key. Sure it's not help? Yeah. Not a 4-digit password. For character password. You did it. Good work, Sigma. Take a look at the screen. And so we've got one password. What is this? Looks like the password for a safe. Awesome. Now we can open it. Alright, so. Golden file question now. H-E-L-P. No idea what this thing, might as well leave it alone for now. So we have a thing here, we don't know how that works. We have a thing here that seems to not spell anything, unless this is supposed to be a sideways P. Is there anything else we could spell? We could type in deer, D-E-E-R. Try that. We could type in safe. We could type in suit. We could type in June. June doesn't work. Let's see. Safe. Suit. Deer. See. P-L-E-H. Book. Four-letter password. Is this working now? It changed. This looks like a puzzle. It's a silhouette of a puzzle called a tanagram. Move and rotate the triangles and squares to get the shape you need. Select rotate and move button to allow you to switch between move and rotate mode. You can rotate the piece by dragging it. Rotate move, dragging the piece will move the pieces in question. Press the check button. I have no idea what this is. Let's give it a shot. Okay. Was not fully following instructions there. Right. I assume what they want, and see, this is definitely like touchscreen gibberish. They want a parallelogram, which, see how this rotation goes. I think using a controller on this is probably insanity. Let's just use the mouse. Okay. So, if we want a parallelogram, we would have to get the pieces to specifically not be square and instead be very much willing to go in different angles. And probably this is going to be more difficult than it ever should be. In fact, even programming this feels like something that would make it, that would be really, really difficult. we need... This is so floaty. There seems to be basically no snapping going on here. We need a way to convince one of these pieces to basically go at an angle like that. And we're just all off the edge of the map at this point. I think the idea is to probably keep everything on the map and just get somewhere close to the right direction. Okay. I sure hope this is not going to require perfection, because perfection we're not going to get. Okay. This. And then. See. Put this here. Kind of get that. But then that would mean I'd have to put something like that there, which that wouldn't be a problem, would it? So we could do that, and then that. Then rotate that. I don't think that's good enough though. I think we have to put one here and then that there, and that doesn't line it up either. Yeah, I don't think that's all gonna line up. Clearly I'm no expert at tanagrams. I've done my fair share in a lifetime, I imagine, but I'm hardly something I would hardly call myself an expert in them. Let's see if we bring it up that direction. Then what? Parallelogram. You know what we need to do is we need to run the risk of leaving this. Let's go. Check failed. Failed doesn't reset. It could be that I'm just trying to make the parallelogram in completely the opposite direction, and that might be the case. So is there, instead of angling it that way, a path we could do where it angles the other direction? I think so. I mean, I don't think it would actually even be particularly too difficult to go that route. And that would solve a big part of it immediately. And we would just have to rotate this. And then possibly squeeze the rest of this in somewhere. And I imagine the science behind this is that this is just going to be easier than it seems every time. Or it's going to be more difficult than it seems every time. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's big elements of trickery that you have to pull off. Or that there's basically only one solution in total that you can do. I quite liked geometry when I was in school, I'll mention that, but don't feel like you use it too much in the real world. The direct mathematics of it, at least. Probably in a abstract way do use geometry quite a bit. And it seems like geometry gets fairly incomprehensible fairly quickly once you get into the deeper elements of it. And I certainly recall people struggling with the concepts of trying to calculate angles and things. I would suspect these are not next to each other. It would probably be easiest to have these two always in opposite sides, because then that just fills up the middle part easier. Let's see. So if I was to put something like that there, and something like that there, and then rotate that there, it just seems unnecessary. Let's put that there. Let's rotate this here. And usually when I've done puzzles like this, they've tended to be very buggy in a way that is often unacceptable. This piece is almost certainly the linchpin to all this. If we cannot figure out how to get this piece to decide to line up with the other pieces, we are going to always run into problems. That. And this game has never been generous enough to give us a way to skip any of this stuff. So we just kind of have to keep on brute forcing this. I suppose at a certain point I might have to look up an answer. I think this is probably right, and it's just incredibly picky. So I'm gonna, and I don't know how, here you can see the mouse is just moving even a little bit, and that's more than enough for it to go wild. It's like if they overlapped or snapped to each other, that would make sense. But it's not how this is lining up. Hey, yeah, a certain level of precision here is asking for seems a little crazy. Yeah, if I can't get this to work in a couple more checks, I'm gonna have to go look up the answer just to make sure I'm doing it right, because I could also simply be really just barking up the wrong tree completely. I don't want to have to escape this place and start all over multiple times. See. Yeah, either this is really, really picky. I am just really, really wrong. Let's see. See, it's not really lined up as well as I'd like it to be. And there's like no snap. No grid snap or anything. Alright, well, I'm gonna look up the solution, and just to make sure, I think I have the solution. I just think the game is terrible. And this is a great example of making a game that has very little actual game in it. So, and there was very little effort to clearly make sure that there was a gameplay mechanic that would have been polished and QA'd at any level. So, yeah, let's just double check we're making the shape right. Okay. Must use shapes to create a parallelogram. And you get the secret file password, which I could just skip. But apparently the parallelogram that I'm building is not the parallelogram they want, so we'll try this again. And we'll follow the instructions directly as shown, which I feel like that kind of sucks, that I was very close to making a parallelogram, and the mouse sensitivity, which I don't think there was a mouse sensitivity option, but you can see how it just floats, and I don't think that's my mouse, because if I let go of my mouse and it's just there. Let's see, hold down the mouse, move a little bit, you can see I'm not moving the mouse, it's just rotating, it's just maintaining velocity for some crazy reason. Alright, let's see if we can just kind of spin a bunch of these while we're at it. Let's see. I guess all these pieces also pivot on a central point, which I suppose that would be necessary. See, that sound effect that's playing in the music right now, that high frequency sound effect is a little off-putting. It's not the worst sound effect I've ever heard, but it's not great. So let's see, we now bounce to that, and that, and then try and do that. Get all that lined up. And I should probably do this about as terrible as one could imagine. And then click check and see if it completes it. It did complete it. So there was simply just a point. Oh, yeah. Who's the man? That was amazing. How'd you do it? The puzzle was really hard. Well done, Sigma. That was pretty impressive. So what do we get? Look, there's something on the screen. IILP. What does that mean? So, yeah. They just wanted it to be a parallelogram in that orientation, which probably would help. And I guess what IILP would have been if I put the tablet back where it was before I picked it up. That would have been IILP instead of H. If you also ignore the letter E, which I guess that doesn't make sense either. That might have been the letters as they were originally, before I moved anything. Phew, looks like that worked. Good job. That was awesome. The screen changed. Hey, it looks like different before. The symbols are different and they're in different places. Alright, well, we still can't access this password. So unless there's a novel section that tells us about that, and still can't get anything other than a picture of a Kane, and that kind of implies that the director's office very well might be for a Kane. Either that or the face scanner is simply just willing to unlock for any female. The safe just like before. There's got to be a way to open it. Should we just punch in the password? Why don't we try and find out? And once again, we have only one more password after this. So either there's one more escape room that we haven't done, or the passwords are just not going to work with this system. It almost feels like this final page should unlock 6 more spots for 6 more passwords, just for the players who are not using the memo and writing down these larger passcodes. So we're going to go star, moon, sun first, and that way we can make sure we get the gold file. And whatever's in the gold file will be probably pretty crazy. Good job, it opened. Good work. I feel like there's definitely a problem with the writing in this story, in the fact that there are so many characters that once we've revealed who they were, it has just spoiled any possible twist or secret, and they had to be secret up until that point for that very reason. Tenmyoji and Quark are great examples of that, where you just cannot possibly find out much of anything about him if it's going to turn out that Tenmyoji is the main character of the first game, much older, or someone else. Or Santa. So we have Sun, Moon, Star Keys. Let's see. Anything special about this? Not really, other than the fact that there's sun and a moon and a star, which I think is a bigger hint for later. Slingshot. Kind of unimportant and unnecessary explanation of what a slingshot is, in case you didn't figure it out. To a slight mystery. The site in question was for a simulated manned mission to Mars held in the Nevada desert on New Year's Eve 2028. The audio logs from the simulation contain a woman's voice, assumed to be one of the test subjects, saying the following: 6 of us are dead. Counting myself, there's only 3 left. I guess you could say I killed them. No, that's not quite right. Not just them. Not all 6. All of them. All 6 million. Most evidence seems to suggest that this was the beginning of the Radical 6 outbreak, and that the Nevada facility was the epicenter of the pandemic. Which maybe we are somehow in that facility, and maybe we are about to release the Radical 6 virus, or maybe we are going to be able to affect the past so that doesn't happen, and that's the whole point of the Nonary game. Or maybe it's just a big red herring, because in almost every other flow, there has been no mention of the test site mystery. Termite, a general term to refer to insects in the epifamily of Termidae of the cockroach order Blodia. That's right. Even though they're sometimes called white ants, termites aren't even in the same family as ants. They're in the cockroach family instead. Also, king crabs are in the hermit crab order, and the remora are in the Perciformes order. I don't know why any of that information would be useful, nor I don't know how that conversation is even going to happen that they talk about termites. Words 03 says before leaving, there are a few variations. Have a nice trouble, have a nice tragedy, have a nice trust. Yeah, we've seen these variations. Seems like there's 9 of them in total. Conjunction, a term used in positional astronomy. Put simply, it means 2 celestial bodies appear to be one another in the sky. When used in the context of our solar system, it often refers to a position where a given celestial body is aligned with the sun. For example, when Mars is on the opposite side of the sun of the Earth, it's considered to be in conjunction with Earth. Mercury and Venus, which orbit closer to the sun than Earth does, have 2 types of conjunction when they are hidden on the other side of the sun. This is referred to as superior conjunction. When they are lined up on the near side of the sun, they're called inferior conjunction. I can see where that's going to come from. And then Tenmyoji's picture. This is a photograph that Tenmyoji was holding. The subject is a girl named Akane Kurashiki. Akane was one of the people who appeared in the game's sister title 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors, as a childhood friend of Junpei, that title's main character. In 999, she was 21 years old. This picture was taken 9 years before that, when she was 12. Look on the left side of the picture. If you look closely, it almost looks as if there's a man grieving in the background. Do you see him? Don't worry if it seems strange. A spirit medium has told us that this person in the picture is a guardian spirit who is looking after her. He must have shown up here because he heard what sort of destiny she had in store and decided to see how she was doing. I don't see any person on the left side of the picture, and you don't get a good image of the picture because the text is just always going to be over it. You really can't throw the events and the characters of the prequel. They call it sister title 999. I don't think that's the right way to say it. I think you call it a predecessor prequel to this game. I don't think you get anywhere playing this game unless you played 999. You're going to really be confused. But it also doesn't help to bring in all of the story and all the red herrings and all of the overlong drama that happened in 999 into this game. And I'm glad they haven't done too much of that. Although it seems like in the end we're still going to get a reveal that a lot of this does have to do with the previous Nonary game. But I really would be very happy if they had been completely done with 999 and not tried to connect it in the same universe at all. Just have one alternate universe where the Nonary game has happened 2 times in this alternate universe where it is happening for the first time ever. That would be better. It also lets you just break the rules a lot easier instead of having the weird way that the Nonary game in this case plays very differently. Apparently we're also still going to get like 6 items. Alright, well, let's put in the other code and exit. There's no reason to delay this too much. So we need sun, moon, sun. I feel like we might see a passcode for the password get entered, but we might not. Phew. It opened. And so we were through the white doors. Looks kind of empty this time. There's only 2 things in here. First we've got the AB key cards, star cards. They can be used multiple times. And arguably maybe you only needed 2 in totality for all 9 of the people. Or even 1. There are 2 of them. You guys take one and I'll take the other. Right. Or a pair, so we only need 1 for the 2 of us. And the other thing is the key as usual. Yes. Now we can get out of here. No other items in the inventory. Great. No point in sitting around. Let's go. It'd be kind of funny if Tin Miyoji forgot his photo. The door's locked. It says lock right now. What's the holdup? We've already got the key. I have to select the key. Guys ready? Yeah. Go for it. Alright. 3, 2, 1. We escape. Now in 12 minutes to get out of that room. So going out of the white room then brings us to another switched area, which then brings us to like a hallway we'd already been at, and we can, I guess, meet in front of the elevator. I guess we're waiting for the other groups. I don't know how many people even in this timeline are still alive in this timeline, because we didn't, in this instance, really try to go crazy with this. And we remember, Alice is dead. She killed herself. But I think that's pretty much it. I think we're just 8 people. No.
Damn it!
What's wrong?
I left something in the director's office.
What was it?
The picture. Ugh, how could I forget it?
So he did leave it behind. Oh yeah. We must have sat down after using the face recognition thing.
Yeah, I'm going back. You 2 go on ahead to the warehouse.
I want to come with you.
Me too.
That's fine. Why don't you head back to the warehouse, Sigma? The others are probably already waiting.
Alright. I'll see you 2 later then.
Bye,
Alright.
Mr. Sigma.
And see, this would be funny if this is the revelation that that Quark is 0, but honestly there's a decent chance that Sigma is kind of 0 Senior in the sense that he is the clone of 0 Senior. Guess I should be getting back then. Like, it'd be really ridiculous to make the accusation that Tenmyoji is planting bombs, because we know it's Dio that's doing that. Maybe Tenmyoji will find a bomb in the director's office this time. That's the only thing I could think would be different. It wouldn't surprise me though if Tenmyoji actually did know how to activate the computer and was hiding it from us, because he did seem to have some familiarity with both new looking and very old looking technology. And I don't know if there's really that much of a threat at the moment, because I don't know if they found any bombs. So we are fairly not that afraid. I think they may have found the old lady dead and kind of forgotten about that, but maybe they didn't even find that. I stepped into the warehouse and find all the other teams already there. Kay and Luna, Fi and Clover. They all feel a little dark right now too. Like there's, my TV's a little darker than it should be, and there's no reason why that would have changed. Or they just have, the app itself has decided to depict everything darker. The moment Dio spotted me, he dashed over to the rightmost AB room and slid his card through the reader. Interesting. He doesn't seem to want to wait usually, but he did wait in this case.
An Ambidex gate has been
But he wants to make sure he goes to the rightmost room so that the old lady's body's not found.
45 minutes remain until Ambidex game polling closes.
As he turned to look at me, I swore I saw a flash of a smug grin.
There. Happy? This time I waited for you to get back before I opened it. You see? I can be considerate.
But Tenmyoji and Quark aren't here.
Yeah, where are they?
I guess they forgot something back in the room we found. They ran back to grab it real quick. Quark was supposed to be with you, Sigma, and now Quark has gone
Be
missing.
here in a few minutes. No big deal.
So I may get to vote without any competition. We waited. We exchanged information about the rooms we investigated. Unfortunately, none of it seemed very useful. None of us had found anything, and we were no closer to unraveling any of the increasing number of mysteries we were faced with. With that discussion exhausted, we sat down to wait. Before long, 20 minutes had passed since Dio opened the door, and Tenmyoji and Quark were nowhere in sight.
Don't you think they're taking a little long?
Yes, I'm getting worried. What if something happened to them?
I'll go have a look.
Then I shall accompany you.
Nah, you'll be fine. I'll be fine by myself. It's not that far away.
Just don't look into the abyss too long, or you might become a monster.
That's a weird sentence. That's, I don't think, okay. Look, I'm just gonna go to the director's office. I'll be right back. No big deal. Right, see you guys later. I gave a quick wave goodbye, stepped out of the warehouse. And see, we're now just once again traveling back to potentially find Tenmyoji and Quark dead. Which if we find them dead, I guess that means I can betray them. There's almost no reason to ally with them at that point if both of your competitors are dead. Maybe Tenmyoji knew what that flat platform device was. Maybe it's some kind of teleporter or time travel device. Huh? That's odd. There's nobody here. The photo's missing. Picture's gone though. Tenmyoji and Corky must have been here then. I laid out the floor B map. They must have taken the door that faces the warehouse. Well, so after that they probably went through the warehouse and out the blue door to the elevator. Yeah, that's a much shorter route. On the other hand, I came through the red door, which is kind of the long way around, huh? Looks like we managed to miss each other perfectly. Ugh. Well, this was a huge waste of time. Shoot. Might as well head back, I suppose. I packed up the map and was headed toward the door when... Huh? There was a light on where there hadn't been a light before. What? Why is that thing on? We messed with it earlier, but nothing seemed to work. I felt a sudden wave of inexplicable, nauseating dread. The light stared at me. I swallowed and edged cautiously toward it. The machine was in arm reach now. I stretched my hand out toward it slowly.
So, you finally made it.
So, interesting that somebody would have bothered to animate a new character. Like, we really weren't expecting a new character. This guy is very much the high fashion anime type character with all kinds of belts and jackets and eye patches and gray hair. Once again, this could be someone from the previous game. He does seem to be wearing a bracelet like the others. This looks a lot different from Tin Miyoji if it's supposed to be a clone of Tin Miyoji. It'd be funny if this turned out to be Brother, the leader of the Free the Soul movement. It'd be weird if it turned out that the Free the Soul movement somehow became legitimate or was right and they are running the planet now, hundreds of years later. But yeah. He kind of looks like Brother more than anybody else. No, you're.
I am Zero.
Apparently. How can he be Zero and be amongst the others unless he jumped bodies into somebody else?
I was the one who brought you here.
Is this a recording or is this interactive?
You undoubtedly have as many questions for me as there are stars in the sky. As you can see, however, this is only a recording.
How could Zero not be in the group and then still be in the group?
I will therefore be unable to directly answer any questions. Ask if you wish, but I cannot respond.
Okay, so that kind of feels like the technology is actually a little weak. Because even modern Siri type technology can respond a little bit. Yeah. I'm interested to see where the split is going to happen here. It's almost like if we get down to this point, and this is an AB game, we will choose ally and potentially just ally until somebody has 9 and tries to escape without us, or betray, and then we'll just betray until somebody has 9 and tries to escape without us. Or I considered taking a swing at them, but decided that was a spectacularly futile and kept my bald fist at my side.
Where to begin?
I wonder if there's another timeline where we see this guy. There almost certainly has to
There
be.
are many things I wish to tell you, but unfortunately,
We don't want to drag
is limited.
our feet here, so let's just go through this.
Information I can provide is also limited. I have chosen 2 things of great importance to tell you.
Okay.
First, I will tell you about termites.
So this is how the termite conversation goes.
In retrospect, I suppose that's a rather odd thing to say. I imagine you look rather bewildered right now. Perfectly understandable. The person who kidnapped you and threatened you with death is lecturing you about insects. I suspect it hardly seems fair. Nonetheless, this is very important. In a way, it will determine your fate.
So we just gonna find a wall somewhere that's been eaten out by termites?
So I ask that you listen.
It's kind of hard to believe we'd be on Mars, which still feels like a possibility if there's termites, but I would almost be shocked if somehow, if we moved to Mars, we didn't end up taking a lot of insects and termites with us. It would be great if we could figure out a way to not have invasive insect species on the new planet, but I don't buy that. I don't buy that would actually happen, and frankly, humans living alone with no other kinds of microscopic organisms being supported by other insects would probably develop some sickness or deficiency.
Have you ever seen a termite mound? They are splendid structures. Some might even call them works of art.
I guess the idea is the flow here is a termite mound.
Termites are natural architects, and their mounds are both structurally sound and make excellent use of space. So, are they following some sort of plan as they build? Are there termite blueprints detailing which room goes where? No, of course not. Each termite is simply an oblivious cog in a tremendous machine programmed by millions of years of termite DNA. It is doubtful an individual termite has any idea what its contributions are helping to create. But a human does. We can appreciate
It's really not a lot to say here.
alien cathedrals. We can see the simple beauty of their perfect functionality.
So let's just rush through all this without accidentally skipping some of it.
In other words, only an intelligence of a higher order can understand the beauty of what the termite builds. Now, consider humans. Why are we alive? Why do we love and give birth? Why do we create? From where do our cultures spring?
It's gonna be really hard not just to just assume that Zero Senior is just crazy.
There are many theories, but no one knows the truth. We are oblivious cogs in a tremendous machine programmed by millions of years of human DNA. No doubt you see now what this analogy is supposed to illustrate. Yes, I mean to say humans are not different from termites.
Okay.
We trudge through our lives with no greater understanding of our ultimate goal.
Let's get some specifics here.
Say we don't understand what we're building.
Like, at best, all I can figure out is what they're trying to do is break the fourth wall and say, hey, it wasn't a huge waste of time that you went down every single one of these timelines. You are actually building the foundation for the perfect ending. The problem with that I'm going to have, and I think a lot of Western people would have, and even I suspect maybe some what Eastern visual novel fans might have, is unless the perfect ending that we get to just nails it, like a perfect ending to a game, like no mistakes, no bad writing, no slow flow of dialogue, things that we couldn't possibly expect them to actually accomplish considering what we've seen up until this point. You're not going to be able to give me a perfect ending that makes up for the potential 60 to 100 hours of gameplay when of those 60 100 to 100 hours of gameplay, I would say 80% of it feels unimportant and feels redundant.
Only an intelligence of a higher order than ours can understand what we're doing.
Well, who is that intelligence in this scenario?
Imagine how we might look to such an intelligence. We may be building some structure so perfect and elegant, we can't even perceive it. Whatever it is, we've likely been building it on a dimension just above the ones we know since time immemorial.
So he's making some kind of argument that humans, in their own DNA, unprompted, have been building some kind of mechanism of some sort that's going to let us potentially go back in time or change reality and cure Radical 6 at the very least.
If we are like the termites, then what we've created is almost certainly something of tremendous beauty.
It would be overkill, though, if we somehow escape this Nonary game, and that somehow changes the past and determines that outside the world, instead of it being riddled with Radical 6 infections, it's now some kind of perfect utopia where there is no disease at all and everyone is happy-go-lucky, and there can't be any other conflict or story ever again because it's such a utopia.
And you are about to catch a glimpse of it. Or have you already?
Yeah, I guess maybe Zero's talking about the magnetic resonance fields or whatever those were called.
Well, that's enough on that subject, I think. Consider what I've said.
We're looking all around for no reason.
Let's move on to the second.
I guess that's a way of putting some visual movement in here, since this is just a stationary character that, once again, if they were going to animate characters and have them move, it would still make a lot of sense for this character to animate and move a little bit.
It is somewhat more immediately meaningful to your life, and, in fact, the lives of several billion other people.
Okay.
I realize this is rather sudden, but I have a password for you. It is the password to disarm the bomb, numbered 1.
So he's going to give us bomb number 1. Bomb.
You ready? I will only say this once, so pay close attention. The password to disarm the number 1 bomb is BQZ RGJ DXR.
BQZ RGJ. So let's go ahead and do this. Number 1. B Q Z R G J R G J DXR DXR. So that gives us all of the bomb codes, I believe, now, including the number 0 bomb, which one assumes there aren't any number 4 bombs. I had no idea what he was talking about. What bomb? See, so in this timeline they hadn't even found any of the bombs. Also, there's just a real question here as to why does Zero know the password to bomb number 1 and not then immediately just give us the password to all the other bombs, which seems like he probably could, unless there are just a lot of other flows here, a lot of other branching time paths where Zero actually was in the group and we've only been seeing the paths where Zero wasn't in the group. Like, if you were to believe there are infinite alternate realities, then there have to be infinite alternate realities where there are completely different groups of people playing the same game. What was he saying? Was he saying there were bombs too? If he'd guessed at my future confusion, he showed no sign of it. Man, I can't even read.
That is the last of the information this message was meant to convey. Before I go, however, I have a warning.
Interesting. Why limit your message?
You cannot tell any of your companions what you heard or saw here. If you do, you will be penalized immediately.
So Zero is just straight up telling him that he can't tell anyone else. I don't know why that's the case. Like, I don't know why Zero is making all these rules and making them play a Nonary game in the first place.
I hope we will meet again someday.
It almost feels like Zero might be alive, just transmitting from another room. Wait. You can't just spout all that poop and disappear? Found myself yelling at empty air. The hologram had disappeared. Arg. What kind of idiot does he take me for? Termites. Other dimensions. Did he even mention other dimensions? I don't think he did. How could that have anything to do with kidnapping us? Boop. I kicked at the nearby shelf.
10 minutes remain until Ambidex Game polling closes.
Yeah, I don't think he even said other
All
dimensions.
players,
Well, he said
please
they
enter
were possibly
your votes.
working on something in a higher dimension
No
instead of
vote
an
is
alternate reality.
before the
That is a
deadline
problem, certainly, when you're
has
telling stories
passed.
about
Any non-voting
alternate
votes
realities and
will
dimensions, is that
automatically ally.
there is kind of a mathematical dimensions split, and then there's an alternate reality split that often were called dimensions, and I think they've now kind of stopped calling them dimensions. Like 3D humans, we assume are 3D, or maybe we're 4D or 5D even, aren't going to be able to get to like a 12D space that might be in parallel or on top of our reality. Yeah, personally, I could never even figure out where they've lined up as far as what 4D and 5D is supposed to mean, because some people seem to use it in their scientific equations as space and time, and some people seem to indicate that it's just this nebulous extra dimension that doesn't have anything to do with space and time. It would be weird if Tenmyoji and Quark saw those holograms, but yeah, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't have just played for everyone. Maybe it didn't.
Took you long enough.
Pant. Where are the others? They went in already? You didn't? Why didn't you two? Have you been waiting for me? Yeah.
Grandpa said there was something he had to tell you before we voted, no matter what.
Okay.
Nothing that significant. Just wanted to tell you we're going to choose ally this round. That's it.
And you had to tell me no matter what? Seems kind of pointless. I mean, words are cheap. You can promise whatever you want.
True, but we've got something to back it up. Just hear me out.
Okay, go ahead.
Quark and I both have 8 BP. We're already on the home stretch. So what do we need to get to the magic number? Well, we need you to choose ally. If you do that, it doesn't really matter to us what we pick.
You get 9 no matter whether you get 2 or 3 points.
Exactly. That being the case, we don't have any reason to betray you.
Yeah, he has 3, so if he got betrayed, he would be killed.
And if we both choose ally, we both gain points.
The only thing that really makes sense would be if he said, we want you to actually betray us, so you get 6 points, and then we'll be at 5 points and be closer to the middle. But even that seems kind of crazy. Like, I don't think they're ever going to make the decision to limit the number of rounds that way and risk lowering the count. Particularly now that we have the star cards and there are just no more, there literally are no more escape rooms or chromatic doors, so they could do a round and get to 9, and then they could do 2 more rounds. True, but you must have considered that I'll choose betray. That would mean you choose betray to protect yourself.
We're telling you we won't choose betray.
Mm-hmm.
Can I trust you?
Of course.
Alright, tell me one thing. Let's say we do this in both ally, and everybody gets 2 points. That means you and Quark will have enough to leave, which is great for you. But I'll be stuck at a measly 5. How do I know you aren't going to just open the number 9 door and leave us in the lurch?
I can guarantee it. I
How?
can give you my word. I will not open the number 9 door, even if I have enough points to do so. I swear it.
We aren't going to abandon everybody else just so we can escape.
I swear to. I promise.
I'd like to believe him, and I kind of want to believe him. Unfortunately, it still kind of feels like we're not getting any real backstory as far as Tenmyoji and Quark. And so all you've got is a promise, huh?
Promise. I keep it. Trust me.
Please. You've got to trust us.
Alright, fine. I'll trust you.
2 minutes remain until Ambidex Game polling closes.
There's actually no reason to actually have to trust them at all. There's simply a easy solution here. There's 2 minutes left. You guys run through the other door and leave, and don't vote at all. It'll default to ally. I'll vote ally, and that's that. Like, as long as they are far enough away where you can be in the AB room looking to see if they try and run back and voting, and you can vote.
You gotta choose ally.
Like, there's no reason for them to even go inside. And yet they are. With that, they turned and ran into the AB room second from the right. This is one of those cases where actions can very easily speak louder than words. But also this is the third round, which we haven't done a third round up until this point. And either you're going to have faith or not. And I guess I'm a solo in this one. I must have, maybe I was paired with Alice, but no, I guess I was a solo always.
1 minute remains until Ambidex Game polling closes.
I had a decision to make. Should I trust Quark and Tenmyoji? Well, I could believe they were telling the truth and still betray them. That would bring my BP to 6. I'd be much closer to 9, and choose betray would guarantee that they wouldn't try and escape with the rest. Without the rest of us, betray seemed like the safe bet. But
Please. You've gotta trust us.
see, I don't feel like in this timeline we ever cured Quark either. Or if we did, it's now become such a non-issue that they haven't even bothered to mention that they cured the Radical 6 in Quark. And see, this would be funny when one of them reveals to be 0, but it's kind of impossible for any character now to reveal themselves to be 0 unless 0 is in a clone body like Quark's or even Tenmyoji's.
You gotta choose ally. You promised.
Tenmyoji I could betray easily enough, but Quark, well, what was I gonna do?
10 seconds remain until Ambidex Game polling closes.
This is a good point to just show
9,
like how fast each of these AB game events would have been had I just always been a solo and had they never partnered people up. I'm not sure it really changes the story at all. We'll just do the first one first, the top one first. Yeah. It gives you opportunities for more discussion, certainly, when you're paired with people, and you're most of the time paired with people. But if they had never paired people up in that way, and everybody was always a solo, that really wouldn't have changed much.
Ambidex gates now opening.
Or if pairs, only one person in a pair could vote. Yeah, that would just cause more conversation and fighting.
From round 3 of the Ambidex game will now be displayed.
They literally will kill me if they betrayed and I allied.
Direct your attention to the results
Would there be a reason for him to do that? Yeah, we can see everybody's here. 7 people and me. They betrayed and betray. So everybody betrayed. Alright, Alice is dead, so betraying Alice makes sense. But Phi only had one, so Dio just tried to kill her. And to protect herself, Phi had to betray. And so Dio can say, well, I knew you were going to betray. And so now Phi and Dio are never going to trust each other, and they're never going to get out of here at this rate. That would be, I guess, the biggest irony here is if you got to the third round with the star keys and you still couldn't trust enough people, and everybody ended up killing each other through betrayals, except for, I guess, one person who may still not have enough points. Suppose there is a scenario there where if you kept on doing betrayals, there would just never be enough opportunities to have enough points. In this case, Luna had one, and so arguably you could make the argument that Luna chose to betray instead of Clover, or they talked each other into it, and so they betrayed. Now Clover has the highest score we've ever seen at 11, while K allied, which brings him down to 6. That seems weird, and it, I guess, implies that Clover and Luna did not trust K at all, because they didn't want him to get 9 points. But we've seen also in different timelines K escaping as soon as he has 9 points. And then Tin, Myoji, and Quark, one of those two betrayed, and that got them up to 3. That got them up to 11. I thought you lost 3 when you betrayed. I guess you only lose 2. So they betrayed in I'm Not Dead. Yeah. I guess that explains why they didn't say it would be killing you.
Points have been assigned or subtracted accordingly. Please check your bracelet.
So now it's just going to be a matter of listening to people's explanations. Hey, what the hell, guys? Why'd you betray me?
Nothing to do with this. I made the vote.
Grandpa.
Alright, fine. Why'd you break your promise, Tinmoji?
I promised you one thing. We wouldn't open the number 9 door, even if we got 9 points.
What? So you're not going to leave?
Not what I said. Of course we're going to leave.
What?
Look, see Clover over there?
What? Don't tell me. Oh, so he had arranged with Clover to open the number 9 doors. So they did some shenanigans there.
Oh no.
Jeez.
That bitch.
Wait. Quark and Ten Myoji have...
The words were barely out of her mouth when Tin, Myoji, and Quark ran past by.
God damn it!
It's kind of almost no point in even stopping people once the doors open.
Clover, are you really going to leave? Well, yeah.
Interesting. What's her justification?
Why else would I open the door?
But why?
I'm going to go call the others, so we can capture Zero Senior.
Ten Myoji, are you and Quark going too?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Sorry, everybody.
So Sigma, happy? I kept my promise.
This is a stupid conversation to have.
Whoever opened the door, not me.
Like hell, I'm happy. That's some shady poop, Tin Myoji.
So I have to get out of here, and that's that. He's got to pay for what he's done.
He?
Who?
Zero.
You mean you know who Zero Senior is?
Yeah. No point keeping it a secret now, I suppose.
So are we gonna get a reveal of who Zero Senior is?
I know exactly who Zero Senior is.
What?
Alright, tell us and reveal that part. It seems like it doesn't really matter.
The number
Don't leave us hanging.
has been opened. It will remain open for 9 seconds.
Let's go. Come on, guys. Time to move.
This feels like a timeline where people should just run through the front, through the door.
This is for you, Mr. Sigma.
Quark held something out. I looked down to see 2 pieces of folded paper. What is this?
It's a letter. I wrote it in the director's office before the AB game. I
Interesting.
wanted to tell you what kind of guy Grandpa is. So,
Interesting.
read it, okay?
You press it into my hand.
See you later, Mr. Sigma.
Then he turned and ran toward the door, Tin Myoji and Clover following in his footsteps. I was so surprised by the letter that I didn't even try to stop them before I could think of anything to say.
See you.
Goodbye.
Well, who is Zero? Don't leave us hanging like that. Just tell us so we can figure it out and just be done with it. I don't even think figuring out who Zero is going to change much. It might very well have changed the way we thought about how we played other times, certainly, but we can see there's basically only 4 or 5 more branches to even play at this point.
This ends the Nonary Game. Thank you for your participation. As the game is over, all doors other than the number 9 door have been unlocked.
Same old dialogue.
Escape is not possible. Please enjoy your stay.
I feel like we have to read this letter, otherwise instead of the game just saying game over, because that would just really, really suck if the game said game over. And we may very well choose to betray in the next timeline, and it might not change much because there's still a good chance that Clover is going to escape.
They're gone.
All we can do now is hope they bring help back.
Indeed.
I agree.
Well, what's funny is he said he has to pay. We know Dio can't be Zero Senior. So if Zero Senior is in the group at this point, it's either K or me. And somehow I just don't remember that I'm Zero Senior. And I feel like it very possibly is Sigma. Either that or you're going to tell me one of the female characters is actually a he, which I wouldn't put that past a Japanese story. They do it quite often, but it's definitely a twist that doesn't need to be added on top of the long list of twists. I looked down at Quark's letter and slowly unfolded it. His handwriting was still slightly uneven, but he had filled both pages with writing. I began to read. We're going to get a big wall of text. Yeah, aren't we? It was a really stormy day when he found me. He said the rain was coming down so hard it almost hurt, but somehow he managed to hear a baby crying. I guess I must have been crying pretty loud. He took me home and did his best to raise me, but he'd never been married or had a kid before, so I think it was really hard for him. So Grandpa here apparently just found Quark. He couldn't figure out how to mix the formula, so he was always carrying the directions around with him. Also, I guess I was a pretty picky eater, so if he didn't get the water to formula ratio just right, I wouldn't eat it. I guess I was kind of a pain, huh? And we still feel like Tin Myoji is potentially the Junpei character in the first game. So he very well might just be either Snake or, not Snake, but either Santa or H or some other bad guy from the previous game. But he didn't give up, and now here I am. When he found me, I was really, really small, and he was worried that I might not make it. That's why he named me Quark. A quark is a really, really small thing, and I was really, really small too. Grandpa didn't need to worry though, because it turned out that I was pretty tough. When I was 1, he forgot I was sleeping in the bed of his truck and drove off. I rolled out and went off the back, but I didn't even get scratched. I started walking when I was 2, and he wasn't looking, and I fell down the stairs. I didn't get hurt then either. When I was 3, I got really sick. I had a super high fever for a week, but eventually I got better. I guess you could say I'm pretty lucky. Anyway, I didn't really have any more accidents after that, and I was a pretty healthy kid. By the time I was 6, I started helping Grandpa out with his work. His job was to gather junk from the abandoned buildings. Then he'd fix it up or pull out the useful parts and sell them. There were plenty of abandoned buildings, but finding good stuff in them was hard. You had to know which parts were useful, or you could end up wasting a bunch of time. Every time I'd find something, he'd explain to me what it was and how it was supposed to work, how to fix it, all sorts of things. Usually, though, I just wanted to finish up work so I could go to the theater. The theater came to our town once a week in a wagon. They'd show old news and movies. I went every single week, but Grandpa only went once in a while, and he'd only go weeks when they showed movies. Oh yeah, I didn't know that I'd been adopted until I was 7. One of the other kids on my block told me. Guess after Grandpa found me, he looked all over town to try and find somebody who'd take me. The kid from my block actually had a mom, and he asked her if she would take me too. I gotta admit, I was pretty shocked when I heard that. There weren't a lot of kids with parents around, so hearing that someone lived with his actual mom was pretty impressive. I was also kind of surprised that Grandpa had tried to get someone else to take me. Did that mean he didn't want me? The kid who had told me about Grandpa trying to get rid of me was a real jerk. He was totally spoiled, and he'd brag to everyone about how he had a mom. He liked to come up to me while I was working and say stuff like, "Must be hard not having a mother." It never bothered me before, but after I found out that Grandpa had adopted me, I started to think maybe he didn't really want me. If I could work on my own, then he could get rid of me. I was scared to know the truth, so I never asked him. Then one day, he took me to a bar in our neighborhood, during the day, of course. He went there sometimes to drink scotch, but I'd never gone before. When we got in, he just walked up to the counter with a grumpy look and I thought, oh no, he's going to make me work here, but I was wrong. I saw him pass something to the bartender, and then he picked me up and set me down on a stool next to the counter. The stool was pretty high, especially for a 7-year-old kid. My legs just dangled off of it. It seemed really, really high to me, and I was pretty nervous. Eventually, the bartender came back over with a glass of scotch and another big glass full of something else. As I looked closer, I realized that the second glass was full of some sort of brown liquid and a scoop of ice cream in it. It took me a minute to realize what it was. A root beer float. I'd never seen one before. I was so surprised. Root beer was even more expensive than the nicest alcohol in the bar. To me and the other kids, it seemed more like an urban legend than a real drink. But there it was, right in front of me. I stared at the float. I still wasn't sure it was real at the point, and then turned to look at Grandpa. He looked back at me. I didn't know what to do, so I turned to the bartender. He had already turned around and moved off, though, so I figured he must have put the glass in front of me on purpose. It still didn't seem like it could be real, and I was just staring at it when Grandpa told me to hurry up and drink it before the ice cream melted. So, yeah, a big focus of this story is just revealing that, yeah, we are 100 years in the future. The world outside is devastated. A root beer float is more expensive than alcohol, apparently. And while society hasn't completely collapsed, there was enough of a devastation. We're not getting any indication if Radical 6 is still a big issue, or if all the survivors just happen to be like a small percentage of people who are immune. His gruff voice sounded like an angel's. Is it really mine? He nodded. Words can't describe how awesome it was. I'd never tasted anything like root beer before. Honestly, tasting root beer for the first time is probably a terrible, terrible thought. A, you're never going to be able to taste it again if it's that expensive. And B, root beer tends to be fairly bitter and is an acquired taste if you ever acquire a taste for it. The creamy sweetness of the ice cream made my entire head feel light. I felt like the luckiest boy in the whole world. That's not an exaggeration. I really thought that. The root beer float was delicious, but what made me even happier was Grandpa. When I looked over at him, he was smiling. I know that's gotta be hard for you to imagine, but he really was. Right then, I didn't care whether he's just found me or adopted me or not. He bought me a root beer float. That made me way luckier than some kid who had a mother but had never tasted root beer. Of course, after we left the bar, he was the first kid I bragged to. Are we going to get any important information out of this story other than the fact that we're in the future and Radical 6 has devastated everything? I kind of want more backstory as far as who Tenmyoji is, and I still kind of want to know if Quark plays a role here. Is he some kind of robot? Is he someone from a different time period or timeline? Or was he literally just an annoying kid that was a hanger-on of Tenmyoji? If that was the case, you very easily could have eliminated him and saved lots of hours of dialogue. So Grandpa and I were doing pretty good until the fight. I was in a super bad mood that day. I tore one of my shoes that morning, and some old drunk guy had yelled at me. All the junk I found was totally useless. The day was almost over and I was fed up, so I grabbed some random trash and took it back to the house. When I showed what I'd found to Grandpa, he frowned. He started going through each thing I'd brought back and explained why they were all useless. I got really mad and just yelled, "I don't care." Then he got mad and I couldn't take it anymore, so I ran away. I was pretty upset, and I started thinking that maybe Grandpa had only adopted me so he could raise me to work and make money for him. After a while, I went and hid in an abandoned building, but by then I started to calm down and think maybe I should go back and apologize. It had started raining pretty hard, though, so I decided I should wait for it to stop. But that was just an excuse. The truth was, I was nervous. Part of me knew I'd done something wrong, but I didn't want to admit it. The rain didn't stop, though, so I just sat there staring out of the gloomy gray sky. We don't know if this is acid rain or poisonous rain of some sort, or not. I imagine Grandpa coming to get me. It kept raining all night, and he never showed up. I gave up waiting and decided it was time to go home. I was about halfway there when I heard somebody groaning. At first I thought I should just ignore it and not get involved, but I went over anyway, and it was Grandpa. He was totally soaked, and I could tell right away that he'd been there for a really long time. I yelled, and he opened his eyes a little bit. He smiled weakly and said he was glad I was safe. He'd spent all night in the rain looking for me. I felt awful. Grandpa had been out there in the rain looking for me so long that he'd collapsed. I was horrible. He heard me crying in the rain, but I hadn't heard him. As I ran to get the doctor, I promised whatever God might be listening that if they would only save Grandpa, I'd never ask for another root beer float again. He got a real bad fever and his temperature wouldn't go down for days. The doctor said that if it kept up, he'd die. If he died, I'd be all alone. Man, just big old wall text. There wouldn't be anybody left to care about me. The thought of that happening terrified me. Fortunately, I must have passed some of my luck on to Grandpa, because a week later, his fever finally broke. I was glad he wasn't going to die, but I was also a little scared. What if he had decided that he didn't want a stupid kid like me around anymore? My plan was to apologize as soon as he woke up, but when the moment came, my brain just stopped. Grandpa started to talk, and it took me a minute to realize he was apologizing. I didn't know what to think. He explained that he was an old man and that he meant he was probably going to die sooner rather than later. He was strict with me because he wanted to make sure I was able to make it on my own after he was gone, but maybe he'd been a little too strict. All of the things I'd worried about had been stupid and selfish. Grandpa cared about me a whole lot. He'd been worried when I ran off. He'd gone into the rain to look for me. I tried to apologize, but when I opened my mouth, I just started crying. I don't think I've cried that much since I was a baby. But he just smiled and patted my head. I asked him if he'd ever regretted adopted me. His eyes got all wide and he said, "Of course not." He told me that he was looking for a really important lady, and because of that, he had given up on pretty much everything else in his life. But when he took me in and started raising me, he felt like he'd gotten some of what he had lost back. What's interesting is one of the secret points of Quark's hat that was mentioned was that he had snacks in his hat. And I guess maybe that would make a little bit of sense, but it also kind of doesn't make sense. Apparently the world they live in outside is not short of food or anything like that. It doesn't seem like people are starving to death. It just seems like a lot of people died and they're slowly rebuilding. And unless there's just an incredibly small population, I wouldn't be surprised if you could build up the human race in a few generations fairly easily. The one thing that would really slow down the idea of rebuilding the human race, even if you had only a few thousand people, would just be access to clean water and good OBGYN medicine. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to potentially have a lot of females potentially have kids if they're gonna die in childbirth on the first attempt to have a kid. Otherwise, if you do have good OBGYN and you create a culture of having kids early, which maybe in a depression world where people don't have much to live for, they don't have a lot of kids, that wouldn't happen. But yeah, you could easily, on average, get females to have 4, 5, 6 kids on average in one generation, and then you exponentially expand that in another generation 10, 20, 18, 20 years later. Not 10, definitely not 10. Anyways, you can tell I'm fairly distracted and uninterested in the story. That's when I decided to stay with him forever, even if he said I couldn't. I can't say I hate the idea of each ending telling you the character of people, but we could have pretty well extrapolated the character of Tenmyoji anyways. So I would have liked more revelation than what Quark and Tenmyoji just gave us. And maybe that is Quark's ending and not Tenmyoji's ending, because there are clearly more secrets as far as Tenmyoji. No, that's Tenmyoji's end. Okay, so let's go here and save that, and that still leaves Quark, and that still leaves Luna, unless we just never get an ending for Quark, which I also wouldn't be really surprised by that. Alright, well then that brings us, now we can jump back to this point. We'll just betray and we'll just probably get a dead end that we probably still need to get regardless, and that should be fairly short and sweet, hopefully.
1 minute.
So let's just go ahead and skip. In these left sections, these left branches of the flow, we really aren't seeing that trick that we saw that one time where we had to play a second time in the same timeline. I think that's only going to really happen once in the entire game. And we still aren't really finding bombs or doing anything else like that. It would be funny if they chose Ally in this timeline and I betray.
Please! You've got to trust us.
And then we've seen 2 or 3 instances where people have pulled off very Japanese word games and trickery, which
10 seconds.
you would think would imply there's something that, like Zero Junior said very much at the beginning of the game, but I kind of don't. I don't really believe that. I still feel like there's a decent chance that Quark is Zero Senior.
Has been completed.
And if that's the case, then that's weird.
Results will be displayed in the warehouse. Thank you for your participation. Ambidex Games.
Skip all this. Some of this dialogue could just play by itself without a pause. That would be a great way to make a visual novel and say, look, this dialogue's not that important. If you don't pay attention, it's fine. We don't need you to pause here. Of course, since this was originally a 3DS game, one almost assumes that there was no voice acting in the original version of this game, and this was all reading, which that drastically makes this game a different experience. And something that I don't think would be acceptable to Western players at all. They betrayed, they betrayed, and they betrayed and betrayed. So did anybody change here in this timeline? No? Clover still has 11, and everybody else doesn't change.
Points have been assigned or subtracted accordingly.
So maybe in this timeline we will get who Zero really is, while Clover is gonna go escape. Unless Tenmyoji has said something that specifically makes Clover decide to not leave Tenmyoji and Quark.
Quark had nothing to do with it. I entered the vote.
So why'd you choose Betray?
Couldn't I ask you the same thing? I don't really think this is the time for a fight, though. Look, Clover's over by the door.
Is Clover possibly Zero in Clover's body? If that was the case, then how did we get the backstory of Clover in Clover's end? That's the weird part. What? Oh no. You could have written Clover a little bit less confident in her own abilities, and that would highlight the reasoning behind her leaving as soon as Alice kills herself. Or but then you also have the counter argument where there have been timelines where Alice has literally ordered Clover to escape as soon as she has 9 points.
She opened it.
Why? Clover, wait!
Clover, what in the hell do you think you're doing?
I'm going to call the others.
What?
Justice for Alice.
I'll get justice for Alice. Justice, wait, do you mean... She literally still thinks that somebody killed Alice in this timeline?
The number 9 door.
Or maybe she's making the argument that she's going to get justice for Alice for her and Alice being kidnapped into this facility, starting the whole Nonary game and potentially causing a scenario where Alice kills herself.
Remain open for 9 seconds.
Time for me to go.
No! Please, Clover, wait!
Like hell, I'm just gonna let you walk out of here.
The only different ending besides her escaping is if they just jump her. Where's Phi in this story? Dio leaped at Clover, his fist raised. Clover easily avoided him and moved toward the door.
Goodbye.
Yeah, Phi seems like she's totally missing in this storyline. I caught one last glimpse of her face as she slid through the door. It was a mask of ice. Did Clover kill Phi or beat her up or something? That would be shocking. But I wouldn't be surprised if she is trained in like hand-to-hand combat and actually could take Phi.
The number 9 door.
And then you have this same old information.
Thank you for your participation. As the game escapes
Just
clean
too much dialogue. So in this timeline, we don't see Phi, and we don't get any indication as far as Tin Myoji knowing who Zero is. So that seems a little pointless. Really just going in circles to get endings. Yeah, it's not super surprising either, though. So in the next room, in the next path, we would have gone to the red door, which would have taken us to the laboratory, which would have, in this timeline, allowed us to get the vaccine for the Radical 6. Okay. 5 minutes of life. And then we, after the laboratory, we ally. Do I need to really rewind this? Because that would add like a ridiculous 40 minutes to the game if I did that. I think Quark just never gets infected in this timeline. Or he just gets cured regardless of whether we go to the laboratory or not. I keep saying laboratory, I'm saying the wrong word, aren't I? Alright, so let's just jump here. We'll hope this explains more of it. So in this timeline, Phi is still around. I think she was around in the other timeline, but apparently not. Not shown. And I allied and somebody else betrayed me. And so I'm about to die. And I'm not sure how many people are left in the story in this case. We see K and Phi.
Negative.
We see Luna. I'm in negative. But we now know about the injection that would counter the drug. Suddenly all eyes were on me. I felt their weights but stood my ground. It was the result I had expected. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. I didn't have to wait long. There was a sharp, quick pain in my wrists, barely even noticeable. Maybe we get these gray backgrounds because I'm hitting the A button right when it's doing an animation to fade to black or white. Or maybe the gray background is supposed to be particularly when you are getting injected. I couldn't feel anything flowing in my veins, but I knew it was there. First would be the anesthetic Soparil. I blinked. My vision started to blur. When I tried to think, it felt like my mind had been stuffed with cotton. My legs began to wobble, then gave out entirely, as if I crumpled to the floor.
Sigma! Sigma! Hang on! Hey! Sigma! Get up!
Sigma!
Oh no!
So we hear Luna, we hear Clover.
Oh no!
So that's 5 people. Trying to open my eyelids was like trying to lift a sheet of lead. My eyes had lost the ability to focus, but I could make out a blur that had to be Dio in front of the number 9 door. Damn it. You'll keep your promise. Damn it. I groaned with Herculean effort, lifted my head and then my sluggish body off the floor. So Dio's trying to escape because he betrayed me. Every step was a battle. When I shifted my weight, my muscles started to give out again. But when I forced myself ahead, a single thought blurred in my mind. It would have been nice if they had the budget to go with 3D models. It would have definitely been nice whenever you jumped into an area for a camera to do like a 360 and just point every person out that's in the room and where they're standing. That way we get a general idea of where we are in the timeline. That wouldn't explain a lot, but if different people are always standing in different positions, it would create a visual anchor point. Somehow I forced myself ahead, a single thought burning my mind. I would reach Dio, then at last. The smudge of color faded into a recognizable person. I threw out my hand in front of him. Give it back. Give me the medicine.
Don't act like it's yours. Are we supposed to share everything we find here?
I don't care. Just hand me the medicine. So yeah, he had stolen the medicine. We found the Axelver in the laboratory.
Dio stole it.
What?
And he blackmailed me to vote betray.
You mean he has it? Right now?
Yeah. So?
I kept my promise. Now, you. I wasn't a fool. I knew the kind of person Dio was. There was a chance he wouldn't give us back to Axelver. If he didn't, then I'd die with my hands around his throat. I got as much of my mind as I could and got ready to attack.
Fine.
Not quite what I'd been expecting.
Here.
With a shrug, he pulled the vial out of his pocket and tossed it toward me. I caught it and pulled the tiny glass bottle to my chest, worried I might drop it. The label said unmistakably Axelver. It was the real thing. Clover, take it. I held it out toward her.
Right.
And these blurring effects or something, I suppose. You could have done these blurring effects easily on 2D images as much as 3D models, though.
Of course.
They're probably very cheap and easy blurring effects, actually. I don't even if... I guess you'd call them warping effects, not blurring effects. She quickly tucked it into her pocket. I'm surprised Clover even has pockets. Clover, good. Now at least Quark will be alright. So, oddly, in this timeline, Quark doesn't get the Axelver that cures him, and in this timeline it seems like he does. Or Quark doesn't get it as early as it seemingly. With that, the last of my strength had left me. I dropped to my knees.
Sigma, are you okay?
If Phi does not have the injection on her already, or if somebody else doesn't have the injection of the antidote to the tuberculin on them already, and Phi doesn't have memories from a different timeline to know where to go and get it, there's basically no chance that somebody's going to be able to inject me.
Sigma.
Like 5 minutes to run and get it is going to cut it very close. But I guess maybe Phi's cybernetic legs that she seems to have might let her run faster, but I doubt it. Well, that is also some of the BS here, is that I have cybernetic arms that seem to be completely useless and don't seem to have any strength or power other than a normal human arm, and yet Luna seems to have cybernetic legs that let her jump through the air with ease. I guess this is it.
First, is the sofa real? Let's put you to sleep. 9 minutes later, the tuberculin is injected, numbing your respiratory muscles.
And since I jumped to this point, this recap is useful. But if I hadn't jumped to this point, I probably would know what's going on already.
Take your breath away.
9 minutes. When the Sopro was injected, I had 9 minutes until the muscle relaxant followed. About 4 minutes had already passed, which left me with 5, give or take a little. 5 minutes, it would be dead. I would be dead. And see, if I had memories in this time of having a cybernetic arm, it would have been relatively easy to just chop off my arm completely. And before I got injected, if I could get away with that before Zero Jr. penalized somebody. Surprisingly, Zero Jr. has not penalized anyone for doing anything, almost as if they were threats that couldn't actually be acted on. What could I do in 5 minutes? How could I save myself? Hey. I gave a raspy, quiet laugh. Even with the death staring me in the face, I seemed to be determined to struggle right up until the very end. Okay, Sigma. You can do this. Clinging desperately to what little consciousness I had left, I racked my brain for any possible solution. How could I save myself? How? There has to be something. Every problem, no matter how difficult, has a solution. This is where it went to be continued before. There's always an option. Hopelessness is a state of mind. I just had to think. Think. If there was a way out, I'd find it. I wasn't ready to give up on life yet. There had to be an answer. Yeah. And this is the new content where we see all the other events. And I assume these flashbacks are indicating all the timelines that you would have had to see before.
What's wrong with your hand? There's something white on it.
So instead of using the antidote in this case, he's literally just going to rip off his arm and detach it. Which, in all fairness, you could have done that with a regular human too. If the Soparil is an anesthetic, and even in this future time they don't seem to have any lasers, they could have taken a scalpel and just cut off somebody's hand easily. Perhaps that would have been cheating. Maybe not. It was something somebody should probably have tried. That would have been a great scenario to show in one of the dead-end timelines where somebody gets injected and they immediately take the scalpel out and try and cut off their hand before the 5 minutes or the 10 minutes has happened, and Zero Jr. injects them immediately with the second tuberculin drug and kills them. I suppose that was the idea of the Soparil, putting people to sleep in the first place. And that would have been a great point to bring back Zero Jr. for a moment, or just have the announcer say, player eliminated for player penalized for attempting to cheat. But yeah, you could easily tourniquet a hand and cut it off with a scalpel or the Myrmidon's knife. It would be bloody, to say the least, but it's doable.
The structure of the bones in your arms isn't anything close to human. Your arms are cybernetic.
Well, I guess we finally see the reason why they gave us cybernetic arms in this story. Although, frankly, giving 2 cybernetic arms is harder to explain than 1 cybernetic hand. Like, what happened to make my arms cybernetic? We may never get the answer to that. What the hell was that? I had cybernetic arms? It was both shocking and utterly obvious. Of course my arms were artificial. Titanium alloy bones with ABT exterior to mimic human skin. But I had no idea why. Nor did I know when my human arms, which I distinctly remember having, had been replaced. And that flash of Luna I'd seen. I was certain that it had never happened. Those things hardly mattered, though. If I survive, I could worry about them later. The fact that my arms were mechanical, however, that might be useful. Yeah, but his arms are so weak. His arms are just normal human strength, so the idea that you could just rip off your own arm without knowing how to detach it is unbelievable. I catched all my strength I had left and stood up one more time. We're waiting. What are you waiting for? Why don't you open it already?
What?
Did I stutter? Open the number 9 door.
Sigma, what are you saying?
Looks like you finally gave up. Whatever. I was just about to flip the switch anyway.
Is this Dio and K escaping? Then hurry up and...
Don't rush me. Kay, you've got 9 BP now, right?
Yes?
Well, what do you say? Want to come with?
I will remain here.
Why?
Interesting, K is gonna stay.
I cannot abandon Sigma.
Don't worry about me. Go. You have to get outside and call for help. Do you think Dio will? If he's the only one who gets out of here, there's no hope for the rest of us. You're the only hope we can count on. And see, in a funny point, in this timeline, or I'm uncertain about this, in this timeline, did we find the dead body in this timeline? Did we know if Kay knows that Dio killed her? Because if that's the case, then as soon as Kay gets left alone, he may kill Dio once again.
Great.
Which may not really matter much. We may not really care.
Glad we got that settled. Shall we go?
No! Stop!
But still leaving everybody else behind. Fly began to move, but it was already too late. Dio grabbed the lever and threw it down. And we now definitely see why the number 9 door has to come down from a vertical. It could come in from the sides too, but it would have to move at such a speed that you would be assured that it would crush a hand off.
9 door has been opened. It will remain open for 9 seconds.
It's been fun.
What would be funny is if you get this timeline flash and it turns out you actually don't have cybernetic arms in this timeline.
I promise to call for help and return as soon as I can. Please, do not give up hope.
Yeah, I know. Just get going already. But just you, Kay. Huh? As Dio turned around to look at me, I crouched. Then, calling every last bit of strength my wearied body could supply, I launched myself toward him at like a coiled spring. I slammed into his legs, knocking him to the floor, and wrapping my hands around his ankle before he could get back up.
Hey!
And so we're holding his leg as he's trying to crawl.
What are you doing, you bastard? The door's gonna close. Let go. Let go, goddammit! Let go!
And see, in other instances, this would have been a 3D animation where we would have seen them moving, but clearly they were running out of budget, so now we just get a flat 2D animation of the characters, which completely is out of character for this game. Like, we have not been seeing the characters as 2D characters up until this point, ever. The hands normally are animated. I think every single time that when we look at watches, are animated as 3D images. He lashed out with his free leg at my head, shoulders, and arms, but I held on. I ignored the pain, tightened my grip with every blow.
Hey! What the hell is this shit? Why are you doing this? I kept my promise, didn't I?
Yeah, so did I. As far as I recall, I didn't say anything about letting you escape.
What?
So now I'm doing the trickery ward games.
Shit! Stop screwing around, asshole! I have to get out of here. I'm not going to let my sacred mission get fucked up by some self-righteous idiot.
Dio began to pull himself along with his elbows, bit by bit, edging closer to the exit. He was headed straight through the door, but the gate was already beginning to close. With only a few feet to spare before it shut, he crawled across the threshold and beyond the door. So, this seems crazy because is your goal to get your hands snapped off, or is your goal to stop Dio? Because you kind of can't do both. Like, if your hand gets snapped off and you're holding on to Dio's leg, he probably frees himself at that point. I don't think you guarantee a scenario where your grip is extremely tight and he's just stuck to the wall there forever. Stuck on the other side of the door.
Stop! That's enough! Please, you have to let go! The door's going to shut on you if you don't let go!
Dot 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 dot. Actually, these are dash dash dashes. How did we get to dash dash? Have they always been dashes? I feel like there were dots before. Hey. Alright. See you later, Dio. Yeah. Apparently there was a typo there where they put in dashes instead of dots.
You're an idiot right up until the end, aren't you? Just hurry up and die. You senile old fuck!
Calling him senile seems out of nowhere, but I guess might be fair. No, I'm going to live. What?
The number 9 door has closed.
But see, the problem now is how do you, like, they're just trapped in the place. The number 9 door never opens again, and unless you're going to try and activate the bombs, which I assume the bombs still exist in this timeline. What stops Dio from getting to the surface at this point and just activating the bombs? I think basically nothing unless Kay kills him, which there's a decent chance on that. But then everybody is still just trapped in the facility for the rest of their lives.
This ends the Nonary game.
None of these endings are satisfactory as far as what the Nonary game actually is. And the Nonary game, being called the Nonary game, really makes very little sense when really this is just the Ambidex game.
Thank you for your participation.
And I guess now that I have cybernetic arms and I'm missing a hand, I potentially need to become ambidextrous.
As the game is over, all doors other than the number 9 door have been unlocked.
I guess that means we can search for more clues and go wherever we want. And so maybe the story would go longer, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's not the case. Like, I don't even know whose ending you possibly are going to get now that we've unlocked that gate. Like, what is the point of this ending? It's either Quark or it is Phi. That's pretty much it. Or unless it's not anybody's ending.
Please enjoy your stay.
Suppose it's worth mentioning in the first game, instead of getting endings based on people, there were endings that were based on what actually occurred. So there was like an axe murder ending, there was a submarine ending, really weird endings that, because that was the way the endings were going to be labeled, it let the story go in very different directions at the final act, where in this game every single final act ends up with you in the warehouse and somebody either escaping or somebody dying for some other reason. This voice grated at the inside of my skull. I felt tired, so very tired. My eyes fluttered closed, and then nothing. Then you're going to wake up in the infirmary. We've seen in timeline where we woke up and they had taken my hand off. Now my hand will be missing for a different reason.
Sigma.
What would be funny is if they found another cybernetic hand and already replaced it.
Finally awake, huh?
Where am I? Rubbed my eyes and slid my legs off the bed to stand up. Well, to be honest, it was an examination table, not a bed, which meant the infirmary, huh?
I guess they carried you out here after you passed out.
Okay, so Alice, in this timeline, I believe, was infected with Radical 6. And so, did they cure Quark and Alice and manage to make more copies of the Radical 6? Did they ever figure out to make multiple copies to give to everybody? I don't know. It's been a while since we've seen Alice again. I guess.
I wasn't there to see it. I was out just like you, but I was in the AB room.
She was in the AB room. Why?
Bastard K. He punched me in the stomach.
Okay. So Kay punched her in the stomach to betray and get 9 points.
He didn't want me voting, so...
Whoa. And after he knocked you out, he voted betray, which brought his BP up to 9. So where is he now?
On the other side of the number 9 door. With Dio.
You told him to go, remember?
Oh yeah.
Is your arm okay?
Arm.
I heard what happened. Cybernetic arms, huh?
Tin Myoji's apparently not going to reveal much here.
Can't say I'm surprised. I was starting to get a feeling something was up with you.
I looked down at my left hand, or rather I looked down at where my left hand should have been. Instead there was a stub wrapped in a white gauze. I told myself I'd do anything to get the cure, even if it meant letting Dio betray me, but I had a feeling I might come to miss my hand. Oh yeah, how's Cork? Cork is healed too. Man, I'm glad you're all right. Feeling better? So in this scenario, everybody's alive, at least for the moment.
Thanks to you. You got the medicine from that jerk Dio, right? Luna gave it to me and now I'm better. Thanks. You're the best, Mr. Sigma.
So I guess in this timeline, Alice never got infected with Radical 6.
You saved my life.
So we save Cork. That might give us Cork's ending. It seemed they shared stories while I was asleep. Everyone knew how I'd made a deal with Dio and about the journal we'd found with the Latin in it. Clover and Phi seemed to have done most of the talking.
It was completely the opposite of what we guessed. We're not infected. The rest of the world is. That means this place isn't a quarantine facility. It's more like a shelter.
Interesting. Well then how did Dio get infected? How did Cork get infected?
Well, we don't know anything for sure yet. I thought the same thing you did, but then Sigma pointed out a couple of discrepancies.
Yeah, Phi and I have already gone over it, but I explained what I noticed. 1. If we were in a shelter for uninfected people, why had Cork been infected? Any place designated to keep a virus like that out would have had a lot of safeguards to keep anything from getting in. Had the virus really bypassed all those measures? It didn't seem likely. Well, Dio could bring in that virus easily. 2. The timing of the abductions and the pandemic outbreak was strange. It would make sense if we'd been rescued after the disease had become widespread, but that wasn't what had happened. First we'd been abducted, then the pandemic had broken out. 3. We didn't know why Zero had put us in the Nonary Game. If we were survivors he wanted to protect, then why try and kill us? If we were in a shelter, why wasn't it safe?
Well, what about this?
Please explain this to me, because I have no guesses even.
Maybe someone anticipated the pandemic.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
I don't know who. Probably Zero. Anyway, they grabbed us before the pandemic really started. Then they put us in the shelter. But then, after a while, he got bored, so he decided to have us play this game to kill time.
I don't believe that part. Who on earth would make people he rescued play a game where they could die just because he was bored?
Well, we don't actually know if there is poison in this bracelet.
What?
You're the only one who's gotten injected so far. And when you did, it was only Soparil.
What are you saying? That what I did at the number 9 door was all pointless? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if actually there is no actual tuberculin in the bracelets. But if that is the case, then the antidote for the tuberculin that we've had to get in at least a couple of timelines seems like a pointless item to ever find in the first place.
No, that's not what I mean. That can't be it. I'm sure there's tuberculin in the bracelets. The Adams analysis confirmed it.
Alright, so we know that it is in there.
But what if the Atom is lying?
That is also a case.
If you're going to do that, then we don't have anything to base any speculations on. You could say that the newspaper article was fake, or that the Latin journal wasn't real.
Or the journal was real, but my translation was a lie.
That could be the case too. You made it up?
No, my translation was accurate. I'm just making the point that once you start talking about this stuff being fabricated, it doesn't stop.
Yeah, this is breaking the fourth wall just to say, hey, you've got to take what you see at face value in this game, in the video game part, not the Nonary game. Otherwise, they can never give you a satisfactory ending to the story.
I don't think Zero is doing this just to take the piss out of a lime.
The piss out of a lime. See, that is a half British saying, but then something that's just very weird. In fact, there's a lot of like weird things we've heard from Phi in part. Also a little bit of weird things we've heard from Clover, almost as if they are not just localization issues of translating from Japanese to English, and that there is some kind of anagram in that phrase you're supposed to figure out, or some kind of secret Easter egg you could find out.
What?
I was just trying to stress that I don't think Zero would do this to pass the time.
How do you make that mistake?
However, I do think Clover has half a point.
Meaning?
That someone did anticipate this pandemic. That part seems reasonable.
Well, if the virus was spread on purpose, then I could see how that might make sense.
Yeah.
It's not like Noah put all the animals on his ark after the flood happened. He went around before the rain started falling to gather them all up, right?
If this is supposed to be an arc, the male to female ratio might be close to being right, but there's not enough people here.
Are you saying that we were rescued because we're all that's left of humanity?
We were brought here because someone knew there would be a pandemic that would turn us into an endangered species? Does that mean we're supposed to repopulate the planet?
Repopulate, ... I looked around and did a quick inventory. Luna, Phi, Clover, Alice. 4 women, an old man, and a kid. See, yeah, that really wouldn't work too well. The old man has a small chance of siring children. The kid, a small chance. Maybe he could grow into it before the women are too old to bear children themselves. But left as it were now, with just Sigma would end up having to do the brunt of the work there to be the father of children from 4 women, and Kay and Dio would balance that out a little bit more, but then not a lot. That means I was the only young fertile male. Repopulation, huh? That didn't sound so bad. If that was the case, maybe there wasn't any reason to escape. If that was supposed to be the case, though, and this is how this ending ends, where is the maternity ward? Where's the maternity hospital? This infirmary is not equipped, by the looks of it, to take care of babies at any point, or let alone pregnant women. If the newspaper and the journal were right, then the world outside was crawling with a deadly virus. Why would we go expose ourselves to that? At a certain point, though, if you're just going to repopulate and live in the warehouse, you run out of resources eventually. Like, you could fairly easily probably have 2,000 or 3,000 people inside the warehouse, but at some point somebody has to escape, and you have to deal with the virus and the rest of the world, because there's just not infinite resources, unless they came out and said directly that the control room and that antimatter energy engine that they have can create something from nothing, so that there's just like constant minerals and food and water. Water would be a big one. This would be the safest, happiest place on Earth.
The game's over. There's no point to any of this now.
No, that's not true.
If the game is over, why are none of their watches off?
The game might be over, but we've still got a lot of unanswered questions.
Why did the watches not fall off when the game was over? And the number 9 door closes. Why do the watches never fall off at that point? is there something that Zero Senior, Zero's Junior would still penalize people for doing that the watches have to stay on? What do the watches say now? Nothing? Are they paired? Are they colored? Do they have a timer countdown?
In fact, we've got even more questions.
So, are those answers going to open the number 9 door again?
And we haven't gone anywhere as far as this dialogue.
It's all over. Why we're stuck here doesn't mean shit. The 8 of us aren't leaving, ever. That's all that matters.
8. How can there be 8 when Dio and K? 8.
You're including the old woman?
Yeah.
Dot 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 dot.
Hey, you know what? What if the old lady is Zero Senior?
Yeah, you're right. We never even considered that.
That would mean the person in charge of all this was murdered by somebody.
That would
doesn't make
explain a
sense.
lot, but it also can't really be the case because we've seen Zero Senior and it looked completely different, although that was a hologram, so maybe they just programmed it to look like someone different.
Maybe she wasn't murdered.
Huh?
Are you saying she was infected with Radical 6?
If that was the case in this timeline, that she killed herself, then what does that really mean for Dio? He's still a jerk. He's still probably planted bombs. Unless he had just a completely different mission that he needed to accomplish.
And killed herself?
But we didn't find a knife or any kind of weapon in the AV room with her.
Maybe she was killed somewhere else. And then someone carried her in there.
What? That's ridiculous.
Well, maybe we should go take a look at her one more time. Maybe we missed something.
Sure, okay. This is going to be really, really crazy if something gets revealed right in the middle of these timelines. Let's see, are we exactly in the middle? There's 6, 7, 8 on this side, and there's 6, 7 on the other side. So we are pretty much in the exact middle, and we are potentially getting a new revelation about the old lady, who doesn't seem to really matter that much, other than, or at least as far as we know, she doesn't matter that much. Maybe she does. We look down at the body of the old woman. Vi was the first to move. Quietly and methodically, she began to examine the woman and her clothes. I just stood there. Even if she was dead, no, especially because she was dead, I just didn't feel right touching her. Also, your hand is missing, so you doing any kind of investigation is just going to be half as efficient. After a few silent minutes, Vi suddenly stopped. She pulled something from one of the old woman's sleeves and held it out toward me. I wouldn't be surprised if the ring on her finger activates some lock or controls Zero Junior. This might also explain a lot of what's going on with Zero Junior, is that the game is just being run by Zero Junior because Zero Senior, in the form of the old lady, can't stop it or call it off. Although at a certain point, it becomes a question of, would you, why then did Zero Junior not kill Dio if Dio really did kill the old lady, which almost does make the argument that Zero Senior might be apparently Akane Karashiki, the girl from the first game. That the entire first game revolved around trying to save her in a bizarre time loop. So we saved her in the first game, 999, to then have her turn into potentially Zero Senior. years, if not decades later, and then get infected with Radical 6 and kill herself. And I guess maybe Dio then saw and moved the body of Kurashiki and put on the bracelet without actually killing her. If that's the case, that changes the story a little bit. The bigger implication here, and it's fairly frustrating, I would say, is the fact that now it feels like both stories revolve around potentially trying to save Kurashiki, and that seems redundant. Anyways, moving forward, a card.
Looks like an ID card for this place.
Well, then we kind of know what the ID password is on the computers, don't we? So let's, before we do anything else, let's make a little bit of a memo here on just how to spell Kurashiki. And K-U-R-A-S-H-I-K-I. Maybe we'll see if we can make a better I there. Alright. Remember that this was a 3DS game originally, so making memos like this would have actually been incredibly difficult. You would need a lot more than just 2 memos on this, because the touchscreens were fairly low resolution on the 3DS by modern standards, and they were not accurate or sensitive at all. They were designed to use a little thumb nub that was on the bracelet handle of the 3DS, or a stylus that you could pull out that was a very flat, rounded end of a stylus. Not anything really pinpoint. So I'm squeezing a lot more detail using a mouse, and even using a mouse is not an effective way to write notes. It would have been easier, frankly, if they had just let me pull up a piece of paper and type the information in. I could have easily turned to my side and pulled out my keyboard and used that. Yeah, my keyboard's to the left of me on a table. It looks like an ID card for this place.
Since it's got her picture on it, I'd say it's a safe bet the card is hers.
Also, that might mean that some doors somewhere open. I still have to wonder about the welded doors. Like, they intentionally made this facility less of a facility to trap people in it, when it feels like the facility at its roots would have always been designed to trap people in it, unless this has been a warehouse that was used for something else previously and they just reconditioned it. Huh. Looks like her name is Kurashiki. Kurashiki. Ever heard it before?
Nope. You?
No. Anything on the back? And see, we kind of know, also it's worth mentioning that we kind of know there is no more locks, since this is lock number 3 and this is lock number 4, when there easily could have been a lock right there in the flashback at this moment. And the password is now Jumpy Doll. So Jumpy was the nickname of Junpei in the first game. Junpei being the character you played as. So I guess the bigger question is, how does this key card get into the computer in the other timeline? And this is the mystery of the two-headed lion eating the sun that we are getting rough answers to at the moment. And that's about it. So, Tenmyoji is Junpei, and I don't know if Tenmyoji is really his last name in the previous game. We could almost see if we could find a secret here that mentions that. Let's see. Jumpy doll. It's getting mentioned. Looks like someone named a doll Jumpy, but why? He has the secret of Cork's hat. So we saw this a while ago, and I just ignored it. Right. Nonary veterans. Junpei, hero of 9 hours, 9 days, 9 doors, or 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors. And June is real name Akane Kurashiki. So that name's not different. But I don't know if they ever mentioned Junpei's real last name. They kind of intentionally wrote the story so you would never know that. Otherwise, if his real last name is Tenmyoji. Oh, there's something written here. It says Jumpy doll.
Well, actually it says pass equals Jumpy doll. So I'm guessing Jumpy doll is a password of some sort.
Jumpy is a weird way to pronounce that. What the hell does that mean?
Me.
And this is the standard form of terrible security that one would hope to not see in the future, even in 2028. Somebody literally putting their second factor key card with the first factor password written on it and the login on the other side. Looks handwritten. She must have put it on here herself so she wouldn't forget it.
Yeah.
And see, I don't know why she would have forgotten her password if that was her password. That's a very easy to recognize password. I also still am questioning what the whole blood on the wall stuff was about in both warehouses. We haven't seen any progress on that at all. We were still looking the card over when I heard a commotion from the other part of the room.
Alice, what's wrong? Alice.
Oh no.
What are you planning to do with that?
So Alice grabs the scalpel, and in this timeline, I guess she was just really slow to develop Radical 6 on the other of the room, and we ran to the into the room and skidded around the partition. And we're just back to this. There stood Alice, her hands wrapped around the scalpel. She didn't seem stable. Her eyes were flat and hollow. Her face was an emotionless mask. Man, they are just throwing us right back into redundant territory. Like, it does not feel good at all. Particularly since we're so close to the end. The look in her face was all too familiar. Quark. She looked just like Quark had before he went insane, but that meant
Goodbye.
She just says goodbye. Her hand moves, lifting the scalpel in the air, then driving it down towards her chest. Hey, and this time I don't have a left hand, so I can't stop her. And then we have a small few frame animation, and then they're not willing, as a Japanese game, to really show the gore, so I bet they don't show it actually going in. Nope, they just cut to black. Clover screams. Well, that is crazy in a couple parts, in that that's the end. I feel like you could easily have added a couple sentences there. You could either just say it was all with that, that was the beginning of the end, it's all over, or with that it was all over. and it just goes to credits. That's oddly Quark's end, which is literally to say, from the look of it, Quark does not have anything to do with the storyline at all. Like, it totally seems like that there is no solution otherwise, or no other revelations. So we're still looking for Phi on the far left side, or the bombs on the far right side. And so then the question, I guess, would come down to, do we think this is the perfect end? Or do we think this is the perfect end? And I think this is the perfect end. No, I think the other side is the perfect end. So this is the point where we should go here. We can see what this whole place looks like in this timeline. Huh?
There's no one here.
The computer's been turned on. We have to think for a second what happened in this timeline. We went to the security office and we saw in the security office Phi type in a login and a password, and we don't know where she got that really at all. So I might very well have to jump back to that point. And this would have been AB round 2 where we allied in the green door, and AB round 1 where we allied and we started going through the magenta door. This was the very first path we had done in the entirety of the game, and sadly it turned out to be a very important path that just ends.
Maybe Dio and Kay did that.
And so going down this path, now that we have so many flashbacks, I feel like our experience will be fairly significantly different in the fact that we may get flashbacks, and we may very well have seen more flashbacks if I was to play the whole game starting from the very beginning here and just allied the whole time. I don't have a real fear that if I chose the red door and then the green door, the magenta door, then the green door, that I wouldn't end up going down the same path, or that the AB game votes would change. I think those are probably implied that might happen, and it happens in a couple timelines, but that's it. I think in this case everything would have stayed the same and we would have still ended up here. What the hell is this?
A lion.
Is it biting?
Sun?
The sun. It has a couple input fields for a user ID and a password.
Probably can't use it unless we know what those are.
Why don't you put in something in?
I'll give it a shot.
And see, she types in, let's see.
Yeah, just as I thought.
This code, which is a code we would want to write down just in case. Let's just come over here and write it down. K S D A, which proves she has some kind of access because she's trying this code and it seems to be working. I U S and then D, all lowercase. K sigma DO and then Alice for who would be for? Let's see. I U S D. Let's see. This is a lowercase k too, so let's erase that and make it a little bit more obvious. It's a lowercase k. Yeah, that's a weird way to draw a K, but okay. And then dot dot. Need to draw these dots bigger. Dot. Dot. Then dot. 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 Then dot. 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 Okay. Clover is not being mentioned here. If it's supposed to be K, Sigma, Dio, and Alice, Clover could be a 4-leaf clover. And then I is that, how's that Quark? Or U, how's U Quark? Or S or D? Who's getting mentioned here and who's not? We have 5 people. K, Sigma, Dio, Alice, 4-leaf clover, and then Phi might be I, and Quark might be U, but Tenmyoji doesn't seem to have a Tenmyoji question, even if she knew his real name, which was a J. There's no J in this either. So I have no idea what this ID would mean, if it's supposed to be some kind of secret. I don't know why she thinks it works.
We can't get anywhere without a password. Let's see if we can find any other clues. This is the director's office after all. If we turn the place upside down, we're bound to find something. Shall we?
If I turned and headed off towards the bookshelf, leaving me alone next to the desk, I felt compelled to stay and found myself staring at the screen. A lion biting the sun. Lion biting the sun. And see, it's a 2-headed lion, which in every other timeline we've seen only 1-headed lion biting the sun. And I guess since we know K is some kind of clone of us, and that's not really been explained, so the perfect ending is probably going to explain a lot of things and waste a lot of time explaining a lot of things. It would almost make sense, though, that K and Sigma are the 2 heads of a lion. Lion biting the sun. Memento mori, if the 9th lion ate the sun, remember death. If the 9th lion ate the sun. Well, remember death in this part might very well be remembering Akane. But I don't know if the 9th lion ate the sun. Could this be the 9th lion? Then maybe. Memento mori. I get that part now. Is this going to go forward by itself, or do I need to hit A? I need to hit A. Remember death. Alice's death. What would I remember about Alice's death? What would I remember about Luna's death? Am I just remembering the death of everybody in every timeline? I think I am at this point. Yeah, I think this is a slightly different flashback than what we would have seen. No, we probably wouldn't have seen any of this in the first playthrough. Remember death. Remember memento mori. See, this just feels like we're going to get a flashback that shows us every ending in almost every storyline. Yep. And so this is just going to straight up leave us with having to enter the password. See, I don't even know. Oh, it's the D-pad that moves over. Alright, so Kuroshiki. We can't hit the back button, so we have to be fairly careful here. Let's see. S H I K I. And then Jumpy Doll should be fairly easy. J U M B Y D O L L. So everything fits. I feel like there isn't any other solution here to really even type in. I don't feel like we found a doll named Jumpy Doll either. So unless the lion was named Jumpy Doll. Error. What? K U R A S H I K I. J U M B Y D O L L. Okay. That's not the ID and password. Then I have no idea. Did I misspell Kurashiki? Crazy. Let's try this. KSD. Is there any capitals here? No. KSDA4I. KSDA. And then 4I. USD JUMP YDOLL. If the ninth lion ate the sun. Alright, remember. Is it death? Is that even how you spell remember? Well, that puts us in an awkward position, doesn't it? Mo. Min. To. Mori. Let's see. Beacon of Hope. See, how many characters do we have here? We have 9. Is Beacon of Hope possibly 9? No, it's like 6 and 6 for 12. Let's see. Junpei. Well, let's try this. Maybe I am dropping the ball here. And maybe this is why this is here. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Where is it? Nonary Veterans? Kurashiki. Kurshiki. Akane, perhaps? Or Junpei. It has to be the Jumpy doll. Sounds like someone named a doll Jumpy, but why? We didn't find a doll, right? Did we ever see an item that was a doll? I mean, there was the lion doll, certainly, that was eating the sun. But I don't feel like we looked inside that or found anything. I think there was a bookmark in it. That was what was in it. Lion. If the 9th lion ate the sun. What if this is really, really complicated? Kubota. Kubota was the 9th person, but actually it was June that was the 9th person, because the bracelets were upside down and numbers were tricky that way. Yeah, we don't have the answer. It was no good. I didn't know anything. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd seen the ID and password somewhere before. So we get left with the to be continued ending, which then that inherently puts us with this feeling that either I've dropped the ball horribly and I'm going to have to use a walkthrough, which I'm not willing to immediately jump and make that assumption. Where the game has been left almost 150 hours. So maybe these are the perfect endings, or maybe this is just an ending you have to get even after the perfect ending. So then that would put us, as far as deactivating bomb number 2, we can just go ahead and jump to that point. And that'll give us something to do at the beginning of the next recording. There is a decent chance in the next recording, unless we get locked into a extremely long story, which we probably will. There's a decent amount of story here, even if these are just running to bomb number 2, and then bomb number 1, and then bomb number 0, which I don't think have even found. Yeah, and if we find out that we can't even find a bomb number 0 in this scenario, and that'll be crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually hit some kind of gate here where that would make sense. If this is lock number 9, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a lock number 10 somewhere right about here that makes us play the timeline a second time to find out that where the location of bomb 0 is, and we'll just have to go through this all until we can figure out where the Jumpy doll is, because there's something more about the Jumpy doll. It's not just straight typing in the word Jumpy doll. It's the Jumpy doll has some kind of password or something in it. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.